Oh, hello. Today I'm gonna be doing something I've never done before, but I've kind of done something fairly similar. In the past, I've done some random facts videos, like 50 random facts about me, and they're really fun to shoot. It's really cool that you guys enjoy things like that, and I love it when you all share random things with me. So to put a little spin on that, I wanted to share things that you probably don't know about me. In my other videos, you probably noticed quite a few things that I had already talked about, so the information wasn't necessarily new for everyone. But for this video, I wanted to give you all things that for the most part are probably things that you don't know about me, just because we're all humans, and as life goes on, we just have really interesting experiences, quirks, and also just some weird habits. So here we go. I am definitely about to share some stuff that I have never told other people before. When I was a baby, my mom used to dress me in both girls' and boys' clothing. And that's because my parents chose not to find out the sex of their baby, aka me, before I was born. And because it was a surprise, when my mom received gifts from people, she would get a mix of both things. And so when I was born, she didn't want those things to go to waste. So she would put me in both boys' and girls' clothing, and she has told me stories about having to tell people she's a girl, she's just wearing some overalls. And it's really interesting because gender is something that is so ingrained into our brains from a young age, and I think that it was really cool that my mom was just like, clothes are clothes, and my child is going to wear everything that we have received regardless of the gender that it's intended for, because clothes really are clothes. And especially as I got older as a young child, it was really important to me to be able to choose the things that I wanted to wear because I wanted to be comfortable. My favorite Girl Scout cookies are, drumroll please, trefoils. I know that's probably not an answer that you hear that often, because every time I say that, people are just kind of like, oh, or they don't know what cookie I'm talking about, because I'd say that it's probably one of the least popular cookies. There's probably actually a poll on like what your favorite Girl Scout cookie is. Please tell me what the ranking is, because I would actually love to know, because just in my personal circle of people, nobody's loving on the trefoils. In case you're not familiar with Girl Scout cookies, the trefoils are just the plain classic shortbread cookies. The first time I plucked my eyebrows, I cried. And not because I plucked them too much, which I definitely did, but because it was so painful. I was in so much pain, but I kept plucking because my friend had convinced me that this was something that we should both do, and she had already done it, and she made it look so easy. I just remember sitting there in front of the mirror. I was probably like 13 at the time, just thinking, how do people do this? Like, how can people stand to do this so often? How do people get waxed? Oh my God. Because I'm sitting there with like tears coming out of my eyes because I had never experienced anything like that. And your eye area is just sensitive in general. It's a lot to go through, especially for the first time, and especially when you don't know what you're doing. I started this with good intentions, and now it's kind of become an issue because I can't sleep without a sleep mask on. I actually started doing that in places where I couldn't get complete darkness because I need darkness to sleep, whether it was like getting really bright in the morning or there was just light coming in at night or on airplanes. I started using a sleep mask to block out the light. And now what I've noticed is I can't sleep without a sleep mask, not because it blocks out the light, but because I find the slight pressure on my eyes really comforting, and it's become part of my sleep routine. I have a little bit more trouble trying to relax if I don't have a sleep mask on. It's like become my adult version of a baby blanket. If I find myself interested in or curious about something, I become obsessed with it and I have to know everything I possibly can about it. I read books about it. I look at things that I find online. I have realized that looking at old advertisements and just magazines, newspapers from the past give you a lot of context in terms of what was going on at the time. So yeah, I just am all about that. I've learned a lot about periods just from looking at advertisements. Hashtag nerd. I am absolutely obsessed with etiquette videos. I don't even know why, because I don't follow the majority of the rules most of the time, but I just find the whole world of etiquette to be fascinating. I have etiquette books. I love watching people talk about it and looking at old videos of people teaching etiquette, like from the 40s or the 50s or the 60s, because it's just so interesting to see like where it all comes from, especially culturally. For example, British afternoon tea. I just think all of the rules that come along with traditional afternoon tea, so interesting. Like down to the way that you stir in your sugar. You're not supposed to go around your cup. You're supposed to go back and forth like that. There's actually a video on YouTube that is called How to Undress in Front of Your Husband. And I think it's from like the mid 1900s, like 1950s or something like that. I've started to cultivate quite the collection of Pusheens. And if you're not familiar with Pusheen, Pusheen is a cat, a cartoon cat that's actually based off of a real cat that lives in Connecticut. I've had everything from Pusheen books to Pusheen stationery to Pusheen keychains to Pusheen plushies, which I'm very partial to. I love Pusheen plushies. But one of the best things ever is that Eileen got me a Pusheen cake for my birthday. So, you know, just living my best Pusheen life. So you know when people eat asparagus and they're like, oh, my pee's gonna smell. I can't relate to that because I can't smell asparagus pee. And I have heard that it does vary from person to person. So some people can smell the very strong asparagus pee, like after you eat asparagus and then it goes through your system and you pee. It apparently has a very pungent smell, but I can't smell that. And a lot of people can. I really wish I could because I kind of feel like I'm missing out on this crazy smell that everybody's talking about. Speaking of weird slash gross slash, I don't even know what category to put this in. I probably pick my nose every single day. It varies from a slight like little scratch pick to like a full-on like we're in there. I started to catch myself recently because picking your nose is something that I think universally people are like, picking your nose. But I see so many people driving and picking their nose. So I know for a fact that other people pick their nose, maybe not almost every single day, but it happens. And sometimes you just gotta get a little pick in. I can't touch my toes and I have never been able to ever since I was a kid all the way up to now. But I've just accepted that it's probably not something that will happen in my lifetime. The first time I wore makeup, I was about 6 years old, and I wore makeup for a dance recital that I was having, and I was dressed up as a snowman. I'm going to insert a little photo so you guys can see it. It was actually a really special moment to have captured, my first time ever wearing makeup, and my mom just put a little bit of like powder on me and then I think some eyeshadow and a little bit of lipstick. It wasn't anything too heavy, but it was just for going on stage and to have that experience of being in a recital. And I remember looking in the mirror and for the first time in my life just thinking, wow, this is so cool. I feel pretty. And not because I felt like I needed the makeup. It was more of the time that my mom took to take me into her bathroom and put lipstick on, put a little powder on, explain it to me a little bit, and to have that time with my mom and to kind of have the experience that I saw my mom having when she would get ready. In my opinion, I think I had pretty good handwriting in 2nd grade because along with the recital photo that my mom gave me, my mom also found a letter that I wrote to my dad. I was shocked at how meticulous my writing was. It was a letter that I wrote in rainbow order. So with each line of writing, I changed the color and it went in rainbow order. I think whenever you see things, either pictures from when you're younger or especially things that you've written because you don't necessarily remember those things, it's just like this look into a past part of yourself. I think our past selves are definitely a part of who we are today. Here's a little piece of that letter so you can get the general gist of my penmanship or markership since I wrote them with Crayola markers. I have noticed that certain wines have started to give me really bad headaches, and not just the morning after. It's like a couple sips into the wine, like 5 to 10 minutes, and I get a pounding headache. And what I've learned is that there are different histamine levels in wine. So a lot of people I was reading online were talking about sulfites in wine and how that can cause headaches. People were saying, you know, go for wines that don't have sulfites in them, but all wine does have sulfites. The only difference is some wines have added sulfites. So the best that you can do is get a wine that has no sulfites added. And I heard people talking about, you know, drinking organic wines. But then I found something that worked for me. I saw somebody recommend sticking to West Coast wines. So wines that are made on the West Coast of the United States. And that's because typically the histamine levels of West Coast wines are lower than they are when they're grown in other places. Like, for example, European wines tend to have much higher histamine levels. And I was noticing that the wines that I was getting headaches from were European wines, like French wines, which are absolutely delicious, but my body does not respond that well to them. When I started making an effort to drink West Coast wines, I noticed that my headaches stopped. And I don't know if it was like a placebo effect or what, but it is something that has worked out really well for me. And it makes me really happy because I don't experience that 5 to 10 minutes into a glass of wine headache. It just takes over, and then it sucks because you can't really focus on enjoying the rest of your evening or the time that you're having with people because you just have this pounding headache. So now the only headaches that I get from wine are the ones that happened the morning after when maybe I've had a little bit too much. I wear one kind of underwear and I have about 10 pairs of that underwear. So I don't have a big underwear collection, and I am very into like granny panty underwear. I like full coverage, solid support, especially because I wear pads when I'm on my period, and I like underwear that just feels secure when I'm wearing a pad. The brand that I really love is an Australian brand called Bonds, and I believe I have shown their underwear before, and I love their boy hipster cut. That is my absolute favorite. I love the variation of colors, and they're like $8 a pair. I like my basics to be comfortable, and I don't want to feel them when I'm wearing them. I honestly could care less about VPL or visible panty line. I just don't give a fuck. I have all 4 of my wisdom teeth, so both of the top ones and both of the bottom ones. I get corns on my pinky toes, and they go away because I use corn treatments, which work really well in like corn cushions. But if I've been like walking around a lot, no matter what shoes I'm wearing, it could be the most comfortable shoes, that friction just causes corns. And I call my feet cornfields. And if you've had a corn before, then you know that they can get really painful and they're annoying to get rid of. If you have any corn recommendations, I would love to know, because I have noticed that there really aren't that many options. All right, that is gonna be it for today. I hope you enjoyed learning some things that you probably didn't know about me before, and now you do. I would love it if you shared a random fact about yourself in the comments below, and also tweet them to me because You know me, love a random fact. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos coming up in the future. I'll see you later. Bye.